Hey beautiful, welcome back to the Invisible Sorority, where we celebrate being perfectly imperfect. Today we're going to reveal some tips on how to maintain long-term relationships. So without further ado,
it's a brand new day. Gotta take it on my way. Gotta take it on my way.
So the 24th marks my 6th year wedding anniversary and my 8th year with my husband. That's a hell of a long time considering I'm only 31. So essentially, I spent 8 of my 13 adult years with the same man. With that, it's clear to know that everything isn't going to be rainbows and unicorns 100% of the time. It's impossible. There will be times when you're like, you know what? I love you, but I don't like you right now. The secret to how I maintain my relationship, I like to call the 3 C's: communication, compromise, and commitment. Talk to any couple that's been in a long-term marriage or relationship, and I can assure you, they've had to weather many storms, be it financial, infidelity, respect, sexual intimacy. The things within relationships run the gambit, especially long term. No relationship will be without its flaws. So let's talk about those 3 C's. First up, communication. Most problems within a relationship can or could have been resolved just by freaking talking to one another. But what usually happens is that we internalize all those feelings and act on those internalized feelings. All the while, our spouses or significant others are walking around like everything's 100. I'm not just talking here. I'm not standing on a pedestal looking down at you guys. I've gone through it. I've been there, done that, recovering from the sunburn, and I'm gonna let you know it's painful. So I said that to say this: open your mouth. Your spouse is not a mind reader. Sometimes we as women, we think, well, he should know what's wrong. Well, guess what? He doesn't. The second C, compromise. Every relationship will require you to be flexible, whether it's a friendship or a marriage or just dating. It will require you to be flexible. If you're rigid in that relationship, it's going to break. Point blank, period. There's no way around it. You could be pig-headed and stubborn, but guess what? You're just going to end up by yourself. No one's going to want to be around someone where the world has to revolve around that one particular person. It's not going to work. Of course, there are things that I want to do, but not at the sacrifice of my family. At the end of the day, when you're digging your claws into the ground, just ask yourself this one question: is it worth your family dissolving? If it is, so be it. And if it isn't, swallow your pride and set aside your ego. Or you could go back to number 1, which is communication, and talk about it. And maybe you guys could come to a middle ground where you get what you want and then that other person gets a little bit of what they want. The third C, commitment. Even in the darkest moments when you two can't stand to even look at each other, remember your commitment to one another. The grass is always going to be look greener on the other side, especially when you're going through it. However, if you're having trouble maintaining your lawn where you're at, that lack of a green thumb is going to follow you to every relationship you have. Thus, essentially, everywhere you go, you're going to have the same problem maintaining that relationship or the proverbial grass. So why not just figure out how to maintain and tend the grass that you're with, if that plot of land is where you want to be. If it isn't, then, walk away. Okay, so let me put a disclaimer on this, because it'll always be that one person that'll bring up the outliers to these rules. If your relationship is abusive, whether physically, mentally, emotionally, or otherwise, of course I'm not advocating that you stay in these relationships. So on that note, what suggestions would you give that I left out for maintaining long-term relationships? Don't forget to thumbs up the video and subscribe. Also share these tips, because as they say, sharing is caring. And as always, we have freebies available over at the Invisible Sorority website, theinvisiblesorority.com, where you can take your self-love and being to another level. So, until next time, live, love, laugh, and celebrate you.